The problem with free will isn't how can it exist in a classically deterministic universe. The problem with free will is sometimes you'll choose to do something that will later go on to properly screw you over. This free will thing is especially problematic when the steps that led to you screwing yourself over weren't anything obviously dangerous or gratuitously evil, but just you trying to do your best, making a choice in a big, complicated world of cause and effect. Here's to 7 of those times where you made a choice that seemed minor, innocent, or at the very least non-fatal, but later turned out to have doomed you big time. Watch out for spoilies for the following games.
What with Man of Medan being a horror game set aboard a ghost ship with a cast of extremely mortal playable characters, there are more ways to get yourself killed than there are fish in the ocean. Not actually one of the ways to die, but still, f*** you fish. Most of these avoidable deaths, however, are the prompt consequences of your actions in a straightforward kind of way, whether that be failing a QTE and getting got by a monster, or failing a QTE and falling to your death, or failing a different QTE and falling to your death, or choosing to fall to your death and falling to your death. Truly, gravity was the real monster. But if you do successfully make it with a character all the way to the end of the game, you'd expect the danger to have passed, given how they're safely sailing away into the credits. Oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? But depending on a choice you made way back towards the beginning of the game while scuba diving as Julia, you might be more doomed than Leonardo DiCaprio on the Titanic.
Wait, Julia, we gotta decompress here. Whoa! Damn!
At this point, you could have chosen to swim quickly to the surface against the advice of your dive partner, Alex.
I'm sorry, my brother's up there.
Julia, this is crazy. You just gotta wait a few seconds.
Sure, it might not have been the most cautious option, and sure, it turns out your brother is fine, apart from being a barbecue idiot. But back on the surface, Julia is right as rain. Why should you not, therefore, choose to celebrate with a beer?
Beer o'clock.
I mean, it's always beer o'clock somewhere. Except you shouldn't have done that, it turns out, because Julia is now irrevocably doomed by your choices, regardless of whatever else happens in the game. Literally after the end credits roll, the combined effects of surfacing too fast and drinking an amount of alcohol will finally catch up with Julia, bringing on a delayed bout of decompression sickness as deadly as it is a total bummer. So, on account of your choices, several hours earlier, Julia, having survived the entire ghost ship nightmare, dies on the way home. I guess maybe it wasn't beer o'clock after all. Is this thing broken?
I suggest we visit the town first. How about it, Your Majesty?
Please don't call me Your Majesty, Cedric. It's much too formal. I'd like it if you'd just call me Graham.
Oh, I'd be delighted to, Graham. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yes, the town. You might be able to find some supplies there.
If you're not familiar with the King's Quest series of point-and-click adventures, they're a bit like Monkey Island, only they're set in a swords and sorcery fantasy world, are considerably less funny, and are constantly trying to kill you.
That wasn't wise, Graham.
That is literally the second screen in King's Quest V. Not long after, very early in the game, you'll have the opportunity to pop into a local bakery and buy a piping hot, delicious custard pie straight out of the oven, at which point it will sit in your inventory for the rest of the game, looking all sweet and tempting.
I hope you enjoy your custard pie. Oh, I'm sure I will.
Come on, I've been adventuring for like 4 minutes. Surely it's time to eat it now. It turns out the custard pie is not for eating though, as you discover much later in the game when you head up to the mountains and meet the reclusive Ice Queen, Isabella.
I command you to kneel before me. Since both you and your friend over there have so ruthlessly invaded my territory without my permission or knowledge, I have decided you shall both be put to death.
Don't think much of this gritty Frozen reboot. It turns out that Isabella has a bit of a Yeti problem, and because presumably the rent-a-kill van can't make it up the Frozen driveway, it's up to you to sort the problem out. And in a choice bit of point-and-click puzzle game logic, the solution to this problem is to launch a custard pie at the Yeti's face. The problem is, King's Quest V gives you ample opportunities to polish off the custard pie earlier in the game, dooming yourself utterly, such as when the narrator literally says you're hungry as you're scaling the mountain.
Graham notices his stomach beginning to rumble with hunger from the exertion of the mountain climb.
Or when you meet a majestic but starving hungry eagle and can offer him the pie, which he devours gratefully.
You are a kind man to share your meager food with a poor bird.
Or simply because every description of the pie in the entire game remarks on how gloriously delicious it is, like it's actively encouraging you to wolf it down.
The custard pie looks delicious.
I mean, maybe there's a clue inside it? I'd better eat it to find out.
That was the best custard pie Graham has ever eaten.
Uh-oh.
What an abominable situation Graham has found himself in.
Ah, dang it.
In the supernatural thriller, action-adventure, QTE Fantasia, known as Fahrenheit in some places and Indigo Prophecy in others, it's your responsibility to not only unravel the mystery of why ordinary man Lucas Kane murdered someone in the toilets of a diner one night, but also to look after the physical and mental state of your playable characters. This task includes managing their well-being with small acts of self-care, like drinking a glass of water, while their moods fluctuate from depressed to stressed to tense to neutral to anxious. You know, all the moods. These mundane interventions tend to be incremental, but also there's an early opportunity to massively fumble your caregiving responsibility and call a halt to the whole game when you wake up as Lucas in his grimy apartment.
I wasn't dreaming.
On top of bloody bedsheets and slashed up arms, the poor bastard has a splitting headache.
Oh, my head. Feels like somebody shoved a steel bar in my brain and then melted it. Gotta make it stop.
So, like a responsible player, you have him neck some pills from a bottle of painkillers.
Notice reads, don't take with alcohol.
So far so good, and maybe you've taken careful note of the advice to not mix those pills with booze, or maybe you're in the default video game exploration mode of interacting with anything and everything you can find. Alright, inbox 0. If you're in that default exploring mode, then when you make it out of Lucas's bedroom, you'll be too distracted from picking up laundry and drinking milk from the carton to stop yourself from grabbing the bottle of gin in the kitchen and taking a single swig. Well, it's been a rough morning. And how bad could it be?
And that's the end of my story. I mixed alcohol and medication and I lost consciousness.
Instant death is how bad it could be. From beyond the grave, narrator Lucas tells us how he died in his underpants from mixing pills and alcohol, and then it's all over. At least he went out with no unread emails. Me, I'm leaving mine to my next of kin.
Helen! Are you all right?
Oh, Jennifer.
Are you all right?
Yes, but my head hurts a little.
Released in 1996, the same year as Resident Evil 1, Clock Tower is the PlayStation 1 survival horror game for people who can't even bear to look at Chris Redfield's face on the Resident Evil box art. Ah! Gets me every time. Playing at a slower pace than Resi and swapping barely manageable tank controls for equally unmanageable joypad point-and-click controls, Clock Tower had you investigating the circumstances behind a mysterious series of murders that appear to have been performed with a giant pair of scissors.
No, it sounds crazy, but it looks like they were killed with a giant pair of scissors.
Hey, I wonder if it's that guy from the previous game. You know, Scissor Man. Yeah, it's got to be that guy. Move over, Poirot. In order to stop Scissorman this time, you'll need to take control of multiple different characters, the first of which is Professor Barton in the game's brief prologue. And what he lacks in medical ethics, he makes up for in excellent taste in green scarves.
You mustn't hypnotize her like this. She's not ready to remember the murders yet.
Helen, the clock tower murders are fascinating research material for me.
Yes, he's trying to force a 15-year-old trauma victim to relive the horrific murder she witnessed, but did you see the scarf? One of the things you're tasked with during this 15-minute long prologue is deciding which of two experts to send a statue to for analysis. There are two potential options, Rick and Professor Sullivan, neither of which is familiar to you or obviously better, and to add to the confusion, it's presented as a yes or no choice. Feels like I've made more consequential decisions at the breakfast buffet. Only surprise, later in the game one of the other playable characters, either Jennifer or Helen, will be trying to guess exactly where Professor Barton shipped off the statue. Their only hope is that you, the player, can remember where you sent it during the prologue, again via a yes or no choice. If only the question was, Mike, did you go for the waffle or the pancakes? Waffle, obviously. Get the answer correct and the game progresses as expected, allowing you to recover the statue from the location you sent it to, then return to the Barrows mansion, foil Scissorman and escape with your life. Get it wrong and the game will allow you to search fruitlessly for the statue in the wrong location for the next half an hour or so, while being terrorised by Scissorman before slapping you with the worst ending, rank E.
And now, without knowing the whereabouts of the statue, all leads have come to a dead end. Scissorman.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't Scissorman, that was just me preparing to hit the breakfast buffet again.
As you stumble around the misty hell town of Silent Hill, grabbing whatever arcane items you can find and stuffing them in your inventory for later, it's all too easy to miss one optional item, which is a broken vial of an unknown liquid on the hospital floor. I mean, broken vials of mystery fluid are usually best left alone, and on the floor of a hospital? No thank you. What you're meant to do though is get an empty bottle from the kitchen and scrape up the dregs of unknown liquid for no better reason than Harry likes to collect unidentified goo off the carpet. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, he might say. And he'd be right. If you fail to collect the unknown red liquid, then much later in the game you'd be totally unable to save Sybil when she's possessed by a demonic parasite. It turns out that the red liquid, properly known as Aglaophotis, is basically demon repellent, and you can splash it on Sybil instead of killing her, and everyone's a winner, except this demonic parasite. Without that liquid off the floor of the office though, which you might have reasonably left behind hours ago, you'll be forced to kill Sybil and kiss goodbye to the only actual happy ending to this not very happy game. Even worse, if you go on to bypass a second bottle of the precious and missable red goo, which you can only find in a motorcycle gas tank by completing a side quest, then in the finale of the game you'll be unable to exorcise the demon inhabiting Alessa, which leaves you doomed to the worst possible ending, in which you're dead in your car and it was all a terrible dream. Like a really terrible dream. Imagine dreaming up the name Silent Hill when it's neither silent nor a hill. Should have called it Screaming Town.
Subject must stay in one. Recuperation is mandatory.
In 1995's sci-fi survival horror game Bioforge, you play as a hideous amnesiac cyborg with very distinctive polished metal buttocks.
Subject must stay in bunk.
Those must be great for sledding in winter. Your job is to escape the planet of Daedalus, where you've been imprisoned, spending 50% of your time unravelling the mysteries of how you came to be turned into a cyborg, and the other 50% of your time booting enemies in the groin. But with combat controls that are like an Irish pub band, extremely fiddly, and the fact that you end most fights looking like ambulatory roadkill, you're going to need to take advantage of the cyborg ability to funnel energy from your thigh-mounted batteries into healing yourself. Which is fine if you're using the standard off-the-shelf batteries to power your Borg bits, but when you're given a powerful alien battery, it's not made entirely clear that this specific battery is also your ticket off this godforsaken planet.
Here, take this portable energy source. You will find it to be vastly superior to the one currently contained within you.
What is made clear is that it enables an exciting new arm cannon weapon that can come in handy fighting the waves of soldiers sent to prevent you escaping. What a treat! Finally! An alternative to repeatedly kicking enemies in the crotch. Unfortunately, if you use more than a measly 25% of the alien battery on healing yourself or blasting things with your cool new arm cannon, there won't be enough to recharge the Icarus escape ship. Instead, you'll be trapped on the planet and get a sanctimonious message in your journal about how you should have spent your energy more wisely. That is the first time I've ever heard kicking people in the described as wise.
Avalok says nothing will come of this until I stop thinking about the battle. But at the moment, I find it impossible to fill my head with kittens and vanilla pudding.
The Witcher 3 is a game that knows the consequences of your decisions are not always what you were going for. Like that haircut you got that time. You know the one I'm talking about. But rarely is this complex tapestry of cause and effect more punishing than the time you didn't have a snowball fight with your surrogate daughter Ciri, then later she died and you got the worst possible ending. Okay, to clarify, there's not just one decision that dooms Ciri, there's actually 5, but they're all fairly low-key, and if you get more than half wrong, then you're in trouble. The first and most innocuous seeming of these decisions, though, comes when Ciri is frustrated with her training and you step up to do your duty as supportive dad Geralt.
Tell me, how do you do it?
What?
Always manage to pull yourself together. Focus. No matter what's happening.
Both dialogue options look reasonable in their own way. Pick the option to lift Ciri's spirits and Geralt cheers her up with a wholesome snowball fight. Pick the other option and Geralt takes Ciri for a drink to let off some steam.
Don't know about vanilla pudding. Could work, but nothing picks me up like Lambert's famous homebrew.
The downbeat drinking session that follows is your first clue that you're losing dad points.
That's strong.
Maybe you ought to try a different method.
We've tried at least 20.
Never mind though, it's not as if this scene is embedding itself in Ciri's memory to come back and haunt her late in the game, before she dies. Or is it? Spoiler, it is. Make another couple of accidentally poor decisions at key moments, such as not letting Ciri wreck up a laboratory, then by the time you arrive at the end of the game, when Ciri takes off through a portal alone to confront the apocalyptic White Frost, she's a goner. Your apparent lack of encouragement and trust in your surrogate daughter culminates in her death, and although she dies off-screen, the game is sure to remind you of the time you didn't have a snowball fight, because that's what Ciri's thinking about in her final moments. Wow, parenting is hard. All that remains is for grief-stricken Geralt to flash forward a week where he ends the game in a crone's cottage waiting for death to come. This is worse than that haircut I got that time. Wait, no, it's about the same.
You're great with a sword, an excellent archer. Leave the magic to mages.
Yeah. Pull me another.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate you being here. Here's a decision you absolutely won't regret, and that is to watch either a video from us or from our sister channel, Outside Extra. We've got one up here about memes that were elevated into the game, and also one down here about the Soulsborne Easter eggs that we managed to find in Elden Ring. So check those out. Enjoy those, and if you'd like to support us, if you enjoy these videos, do check out the OX Supporters Club. The link is in the description down there. We'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching. Bye.